Yeah, honestly, I've been working really hard to get back to full health, and I feel like probably over these last couple of weeks is when I've probably started feeling my best. Obviously, my ankle kind of.
Nobody could have guessed that the most renowned rookie in basketball history would be planning an escape route just months into her professional career, even though everyone believed the team was rescued the moment she was drafted. On the court, spectators observed the detached body language, exasperated sighs, and eye rolls. However, the true tale was taking place in areas that the cameras were unable to capture. There have been rumors circulating in the locker room about a broken relationship that has totally collapsed, resulting in one of the most startling power clashes the league has ever witnessed. It began as an ideal situation, a generational talent poised to turn a faltering team into champions, but it soon descended into a poisonous atmosphere of competing egos, purported penalties, and a coaching staff that appeared utterly unprepared for the phenomena they had just inherited. People didn't anticipate open conflict between a star player and the individuals employed to mentor her, but they did anticipate growing pains. There are whispers that an explosive ultimatum has been issued directly to the front office, indicating that the tension has reached a boiling point. However, you have to look at the first moments she took the court wearing a professional jersey in order to comprehend how things turned so outrageously horrible so quickly. A basketball prodigy from the Midwest could easily become the ultimate professional idol in Indiana, which was meant to be a basketball mecca. Rather, the situation's actuality struck like a freight train, revealing a deep-seated organizational inadequacy in music that could not be concealed by packed arenas. The excitement around her presence was completely unheard of, brought with it charter planes, huge media deals, and a level of international attention the league had never known before. If a franchise were given this kind of golden ticket, you would think they would do all in their power to play to her talents, keep her safe, and create a structure that would enable her to succeed right away. However, week after week, the complete opposite was shown on national television. It was a stunning demonstration of a conventional coaching staff frantically attempting to cram a revolutionary talent into an antiquated, stifling cage. It was a textbook in poor management. The gap wasn't merely a small setback. Before it got really started, the most successful career in basketball history was in danger of being derailed by a fundamental collision of philosophies. Furthermore, the playbook was not the first indication of this disastrous failure. They began by discussing the team's response to their star player being physically assaulted on the floor. The physical treatment meted out to this rookie was completely unprecedented, and it revealed a serious weakness in the team's leadership. The move from college to the pros is always hard. It wasn't merely strong defense on the part of the opposition. By using hard fouls, aggressive traps, and constant full-court pressure to intimidate the rookie, they were delivering a message. The media circus surrounding her made veterans in the league feel degraded. Every night, they vented their wrath on her jaw, ankles, and ribs. Everyone who watched anticipated that her squad would support her, adopt an enforcer mindset, and do all in their power to keep their golden ticket. If you take a cheap shot at the franchise player in any other sport, the rest of music, the roster clears the bench to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Rather, fans were taken aback by the coaching staff's oddly indifferent response to the beatings every night. The head coach was frequently observed standing with her arms crossed during contentious hits, offering no fierce defense, no yelling at the officials, and no tactical changes to penalize the aggressive defensive. There were times when the sideline was completely still and she was obviously slammed to the hardwood long after the whistle. Leadership made cliched remarks about needing to be harder during post-game press conferences, subtly placing the responsibility on the youngster for not adjusting to the professional toughness soon enough. This made the situation extremely unpleasant. For a player accustomed to a setting where the program was based on intense protection and mutual trust, this lack of verbal support felt like a huge betrayal. The inability to protect her was not just a physical problem but also a psychological one that sowed the first seeds of intense animosity. Music. She was bearing the brunt of the league's financial expansion, absorbing the envy of seasoned veterans, and staring at a bench that appeared utterly unconcerned with her plight. However, every time they took the court to play an aggressive set, a deeper, more systemic issue was developing, so the physical abuse was just the tip of the iceberg. The actual conflict started in the playbook, where two very different basketball ideologies collided disastrously. On one side, you had a revolutionary guard whose entire persona was based on long transition threes, lightning-fast transitions, and a free-flowing offense that relied on her exceptional court vision and improvisational brilliance. She saw passing routes and scoring angles that no one else in the building could understand, so she did more than just play the game. On the other hand, you had a head coach who was firmly committed to an antiquated, defensively stiff, grinded-out style that required significant structural control and plotting half-court setups. It was similar to questioning why a tractor with a Ferrari engine wasn't winning races on the racetrack. Music. Every night, spectators watched in utter shock as the offense turned into a lethargic mess, with rookies frequently losing possession of the ball during critical possessions. Music, play calls from the sidelines, appeared to be intended to limit her rather than free her, resulting in extremely annoying scenes when she had to act as a decoy by standing in the corner while less skilled players made poor shots. It was impossible to hide the frustration, which showed up as frigid glares to the bench following missed plays, shaking heads, and thrown-up hands. On national television, basketball analysts started dissecting the coaching approach, pointing out that the staff was completely failing to use the best offensive tool they had ever been handed. Every time the rookie attempted to accelerate the tempo and the pace quickened, a timeout would be called, halting the momentum in its tracks and setting up a tedious, highly predictable half-court play. It was only a matter of time until the silent dissatisfaction turned into audible outrage since the disparity was so obvious. She was suffering with a systematic repression of the very abilities that made her a worldwide phenomenon, not merely growing pains. The season's course would be drastically altered by what transpired behind closed doors, and the relationship would be irreversibly damaged. Inside the company, rumors started to circulate that private meetings and film sessions had become extremely hostile battlegrounds. The rookie, who is renowned for having an extremely high basketball IQ, reportedly stopped biting her tongue and began asking the coaching staff directly about the lack of offensive tweaks. According to sources, there were angry arguments during which she pointed out the obvious shortcomings in their spacing, the predictability of their setups, and the utter ineptitude of managing a slow-paced offense. With a group designed for speed. For any rookie, calling out a professional coach is extremely forbidden, but this wasn't your typical rookie. This player was bearing the entire league's financial burden. She was aware that the offense had been committed. She apparently wanted better tactics that didn't keep her trapped by double teams with no outlet pass because she knew the fans saw it. The coaching staff was offering her little tactical support as she faced blitzes and face guards that stretched 94 feet across the court. There were no screens set up to release her. She was virtually told to work it out on her own against the world's best defenders because there was no off-ball movement intended to punish the aggressive traps. This degree of insubordination and tactical questioning was a severe blow to the egos of a coaching staff that was attempting to create control and demonstrate their dominance. The leadership apparently saw this as a direct threat to their authority rather than considering the feedback, modifying the playbook, and working with their generational point guard. They created a poisonous power struggle where ego took precedence over actually winning basketball games because they were anxious to show that their method was superior to any one player. In order to retake control of the locker room, the coaching staff felt compelled to deliver a clear message. This led to a very contentious move that would eventually break the internet and ignite a tremendous media firestorm. When the team's top player suddenly began to see her minutes suspiciously reduced during the most crucial times of closely contested games, both fans and commentators were left absolutely perplexed. The coaching staff started benching their star player precisely Music, when she was most needed, all under the really thin pretense of foul music, difficulties, exhaustion, or defensive matchups. In several instances, the offense would completely stagnate in the fourth quarter, in dire need of a spark to close a narrowing deficit. However, the franchise player would be shown sitting there with a towel over her shoulders, appearing utterly enraged, as the camera panned to the bench. She would chew on her lip while staring at the floor, exuding a competitive rage that could be seen on the TV. Strategic load management was not what this was. Many insiders conjectured that this was a deliberate punitive action intended to remind the novice of who was ultimately in charge. Benching the star to demonstrate compliance, defensive effort, and system obedience was a traditional old-school coaching strategy. However, attempting to punish a generational idol in front of millions of ardent supporters backfired in the most spectacular way possible. While the players' camp watched the obvious disrespect on national broadcasts in silence, social media erupted with indignation, demanding the coach's immediate resignation. The coaching staff's startling lack of self-awareness was demonstrated by the sheer arrogance of benching the one player who is in charge of selling out venues around the nation. The fact that she was sidelined for a significant portion of the fourth quarter due to a petty power trip was a huge disrespect to both the athlete and the millions of spectators who paid outrageous ticket fees to see her perform. A daily carnival of sports talk shows that analyzed every replacement, timeout, and frustrated sigh on the sidelines resulted from the completely awful optics. However, the conflict wasn't limited to the star and the coach. Everyone wearing the shirt experienced an extremely uncomfortable dynamic as it quickly spread to the rest of the team. According to reports, the environment in the locker room grew extremely uncomfortable, resulting in a silent rift that made teammates constantly tread carefully. In a tug-of-war between a traditional coach who demanded compliance and a revolutionary colleague who fundamentally understood the game better than the staff, the seasoned players found themselves in an untenable and utterly unfair situation. There was enough tension to cut with a knife during the media availability. When reporters questioned teammates about the contentious coaching choices, the offensive difficulties, or the aggressive fouls against the rookie, their answers were extremely circumspect, replete with awkward pauses and prepared PR comments that stated nothing at all. Nobody wanted to publicly rebel against the coach who dictated their playing time, but they also didn't want to offend the superstar who was actually improving their platforms, getting them charter flights, and covering their expenses with enormous increases in league revenue. The rookie felt even more alone versus an organization that was wholly unprepared to deal with her level of brilliance as a result of the lack of a cohesive front. According to whispers, she felt completely alone in a place that was meant to be her home, surrounded by teammates who were too scared of professional reprisals to stand up for her and employees who despised her extraordinary reputation. Managing the demands of the entire sports world while also engaging in a civil war within her own facility was a psychological pressure cooker. Hardened, cynical appearance of someone who knew they were stuck in a seriously defective system was clearly replacing the joy that had marked her undergraduate career, the contagious smile, and the swagger that enthralled millions. The league is currently holding its breath and feverishly preparing for the consequences as a result of this extremely toxic isolation, which was the last straw and started a behind-the-scenes power struggle. The players' incredibly strong counsel apparently intervened behind the scenes after understanding that their client's professional path, mental well-being, and multimillion-dollar brand could not afford to be permanently linked to a severely restrictive, inept setting. Bypassing the coaching staff completely and going directly to ownership, rumors of a terrible ultimatum started to circulate among the top echelons of the team's front office. According to reports, the message was very clear. As soon as she is contractually allowed to make a move, the team runs the risk of losing the greatest attraction in the history of the sport unless significant changes are made to the coaching staff and the offensive strategy. For a first-year music player in any major sports league, the leverage she possesses is practically unheard of. She is doing more than just selling tickets. On game days, she is solely to blame for record-breaking TV ratings, enormous increases in retail sales, and a total regeneration of the local economy. Music. The hotels, eateries, and bars surrounding the arena rely on her presence. Her sustained appeal to viewers is also a major factor in the league's impending TV rights negotiations. The organization would suffer catastrophic financial losses if she were to formally demand a move or even threaten to sit out or play in a lucrative foreign or alternative league. Overnight, they returned to total obscurity. According to reports, ownership is currently in a state of complete panic, unable to decide whether to acknowledge their disastrous error by sacking a coach they recently committed to or to stand their ground and run the risk of losing their golden goose forever. The general manager who assembled the current roster is under tremendous criticism from all quarters, realizing that drafting a cultural phenomenon just does not follow the principles of traditional team building. A musician of this caliber is not someone you ask to fit into your culture. The player is the focal point of the entire culture. According to reports, rival general managers in the league are grinning broadly as they watch the chaos play out, discreetly calculating their salary cap space and arranging historically large trade offers in case she demands an instant leave. A rookie has never held such authority in the league. However, they have never witnessed their own organization treat a rookie with such bewildering contempt. Temporary apologies and small playbook adjustments are no longer sufficient because the crisis has reached a critical magnitude. There is no longer any trust between the point guard and the sidelines. Additionally, there is no eye contact, no cooperative communication, and an icy distancing that says volumes, according to body language specialists on television analyzing her interactions with the head coach. She frequently stands at the edge of the huddle and stares blankly at the floor when a timeout is called, all the while the coach frantically creates a play, music, on the whiteboard that everyone knows will stall out in 5 seconds. The crowd in the arena has also turned, noisily screaming the rookie's name when she is mysteriously left on the bench during crucial moments and loudly jeering their own coaching staff during poor substitutions. It has turned into an extremely toxic show, a reality TV drama that takes place on a basketball court, and the young star's mental health is suffering more and more as a result. In her post-game news conferences, you can feel how exhausted she is. She tightly grips the microphone, trying frantically to keep her true rage from coming through, and gives short, well-rehearsed replies to avoid making more bad headlines. The media is aware of the powder keg they are sitting on, and they are always searching for that one comment or piece of music that will blow the whole thing apart. Everyone has a breaking point, and the reports indicate that she is right on the brink of hers. However, she has managed the extreme pressure with a level of grace that is absolutely astounding for someone her age. The front office is well aware that time is running out and that every decision they make is being scrutinized by the whole basketball community. They are now overseeing more than just a basketball team.